When I entered into the ninth grade, I made it up in my mind. I said, you know what, I'm going to go find me a boyfriend. And I waited until my dad went to work because my dad worked at night. My mother, she actually went to bed early. So what I started doing was I snuck out the house. And I want to say it was probably about 11 o'clock at night. And I heard somebody say, psst, 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 come here, come here. So I walked towards the spitting sound, and this guy began to ask me questions. He was like, so like, what's your name? How old are you? I told him my name. I told him that I was 14. He was like, you're not 14. I said, I am 14. And then he asked me if I was a twerker. And at the time I thought a twerker was a prostitute. So I'm like, no, I'm not a twerker. He was like, yes, you are. So then he came up, he began to walk closer to me, and then he put his hand in between my legs. And because I was used to that, so I'm just like, okay. So when he did that, he was like, oh yeah, you a twerker. So get in the car and holler at my homeboy. So I'm like, okay. And age 14, I had never been penetrated. So when I got into the car with his homeboy, with his friend, I remember I opened the passenger door. So I got in the car. I wasn't even nervous. He began to touch me and caress like my breast and things like that. So I took my underwear off and we had sex. So essentially that was actually my very first time having sex with a man and being penetrated. So in the car with this man, I want to say he probably was like maybe 18 or 19. After I had sex with him, then the guy who first asked me to get into the car to talk to him, he got into the car and then he was like, hey, let's get in the back seat, and then end up having sex with him. So then when I felt that I was done, I began to like put my clothes back on and proceed to get out of the back seat of the car. There was another guy that came and he began to push me back into the car, and he said, oh, it's my turn. I'm like, okay. So I had sex with him, and then once he was done, he got out the car. Then another guy got in. Once the fourth guy was done, then I got out of the car. The last two men that I had sex with, they asked me, could I come back with them back to one of their homes or their houses? And I did that, had sex with them in some backyard. And I believe at that time I had developed an addiction to that, an addiction to sex at that time, because it was like an adrenaline rush. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have any of that. I was just out, just being silly. While I was walking home, there was another guy. He came, he was riding on a bicycle, and all these were grown men, and all of them again asked me the same question, what's your name, where are you from, how old are you? And I'm like, I'm 14. And then they all say, no you're not, no you're not. I'm like, yeah, I'm 14. So the grown man on the bicycle, when he seen me walking home, he told me, he was like, you shouldn't be out this time of night. And I'm like, okay. So he said, I'm gonna walk you home. I said, okay, cool. He said, yeah, I just want to make sure you get home safe. So as we were walking, I had him and I like turned down the alley, because like in my mind I'm thinking, well, I'm not gonna let him know exactly where I stay, but it's late. So as we begin to walk down the alley, he got off his bicycle and then he grabbed my hand and then he lured me to someone else's backyard and then had me get in a certain position and then had sex with me. So that was the fifth guy, that first time for me having sex. Once I made it back inside the house, and I snuck back in through the back door and then got me a shower. It was probably about 5 o'clock in the morning, so I was out from 11 p.m. until about 5. I think they passed a law for school to start later for high schoolers, but at that time, you had to be to school by like 6:50 or so. So I just automatically jumped into the shower, washed up. I remember that first night, like just washing up and seeing a lot of blood on my washcloth and not really understanding it, but I said, hey, if this is what it takes for me to have a boyfriend, I'm all for it. And when I did that, I would go to the same area, and each night the crowd became larger, so they would have me get into the car and then into the back seat, and then guys would take their turns. So some nights it'll be 2 guys, and then some nights it'll be 20. And while I would be in the back seat with one of the guys, there'll be other men just banging on the window saying, hey, it's my turn, it's my turn. In the midst of this, while I'm out there wilding out, doing some crazy things, having sex with all these random men, I was in an abstinence program. My mother had us join the church when I think I was like 8, and I was very active. I was active in youth group and ushering. It was like I was literally living a double life. Sometimes even after class, some of the guys might be waiting for me, whether at the other house or in the car, or they'll be waiting for me in the bathroom, and then I would have sex with them in those random locations. And my parents, the whole time, they're thinking I'm going to the abstinence program. And I was so well at what I did, I excelled even in the abstinence program, that they had me become to speak at one of the main events because they really admired just who I was, but not knowing again that I'm getting buck wild. Eventually, with all of that, walking out, doing all that stuff, it was one day I just decided I didn't want to do it anymore. I really tried, and when that happened, I remember I want to say like 2 weeks later, some guys, for some reason, I don't know how they figured out where I live. They began to knock on the window, and then it began again. The cycle began again. Parents found out about it from a relative who eventually had asked me to have sex with him. Age 15 is when I surrendered my life to the Lord. It's like my life changed drastically, and the things that I was doing, I realized that I wasn't just hurting myself, but I was breaking God's heart, and I didn't want to do that.